Hi, welcome to Whiteboard Wednesday from Domino Letting. I'm James Callahan. There's been a lot of news in the press recently about letting agents and potential regulation within Scotland for letting agents. As an agency, we're very much pro-regulation, but beyond that, we're pro-balance, because essentially what you've got in any let is three parties entered into a partnership, or what we call the letting ecosystem. You've got the tenant, the letting agent and the landlord, and today we're going to discuss the kind of roles and responsibilities of each party and how, if we don't all do what we're meant to do, the system breaks down. So starting with the landlord themselves, what the landlord must first do is be registered with the local council. Very important that they're legitimate and above board and they're registered there. When we push maintenances through to landlord for approval, it's very important that we get those approved swiftly to ensure the smooth running of the tenancy. What a landlord's really got to do is respect the tenant's rights. I mean, the tenant's looking after their investment, and we'll look after the tenant to make sure that happens, but the landlord's got to respect the rights of that tenant. You'll find the recurrent theme through everyone in the partnership is, I mean, essentially what we're saying to everyone is just be a good guy, be reasonable in this partnership. No partnership works if one party's being unreasonable. So that's the landlord first of all. Moving on to the tenant, top of the shop for tenants is really to make sure that your rent is paid on time, every single month. It's the biggest part, because without that, landlord can't pay the mortgage, and without the mortgage there isn't a property to speak of. So it's really important that that's taken on board, and that there's a consequence of the rent not being paid, being that the landlord couldn't pay the mortgage. When maintenance does come up, it's very important that the tenant lets us know as soon as they can. Sometimes we find we run a bi-monthly happy check with tenants, and we find maintenances that we'd like to have known about earlier we've not found out till maybe 4 or 6 weeks down the line. So it's really important that you tell us these things. Even if they don't seem important to you, they're important to us to maintain the property for you. In a lot of our properties, they are in common parts within flats, that kind of thing. So consider your neighbours. You know, you're in common living there, so they've got to respect you, you've got to respect them. So always consider your neighbours and just generally look after the place. And again, it's back to being a good person and being reasonable. That's always important in the partnership. From the letting agent's point of view, I suppose we sit right in the middle between the landlord and the tenants. We've got an awful lot of responsibilities. First things first, to be completely compliant with all rules, regulations and laws within where we operate, primarily in Scotland at the moment. And much as we are saying to the tenant it's very important that they pay the rent to us, it's equally or maybe even more important that we pay the rent to the landlord, because without that, again, we are breaking down the access to the landlord paying the mortgage. But also you create a lack of trust, you create mistrust between agent and landlord if you're not swiftly paying those rentals. Our pledge to landlords is that we pay the rent across to them within 24 hours of receipt by ourselves, and we only ever take rents on the first of the month. So if you're a landlord with Domino Letting, you should always be getting your rent by the second working day of the month. Again, in line with the landlord approving the maintenances and the tenants reporting them, we've got to actually physically do the maintenance and make sure we've got trusted, compliant contractors all registered and all looking after the property for us. And very important that we do that swiftly, because what I found certainly when I was a tenant and when I was a landlord was a big breakdown was when maintenance was reported but they weren't actually acted upon, and that allowed the relationship to sour. And then back to what we ask everyone to do, be reasonable, just be a good person. So we're hoping that when regulation does come to Scotland, all parties are considered and we look at this as the partnership it is, with complete balance. So any comments, just drop them in below, and look forward to seeing you again next time. Thanks for now.